All right, welcome to the Erie Music History Podcast. I'm Chip Shell, your host, and today we have a very different episode because my guest is not a musician, but she's hired many bands over the years. I know you know lots of musicians. In fact,
I've been bartending at rock clubs since I was 18.
You even once referred to yourself as a musician magnet.
I did not.
You're a huge supporter of original music, art, and as you can tell, Marlene Flick is in the room. So thank you very much for being here. Her sidekick today is Kent Williams of Hellz Bellz. He's here for emotional support and any additional, and her handler,
personal assistant.
So
the driver. My
first time meeting you, Marlene, I may be one of the only musicians in town that doesn't know you. It seems like everybody knows you.
I was at all the Fieldhouse concerts except Air Supply.
What's that microphone?
Except Air Supply. So I'm sure we all looked very different back then.
That's right. You're from Jamestown originally?
Originally, yeah.
Came here in the 78 or so?
When I graduated, to my dad moved here from San Francisco, and I was going to try to reconnect with him, and that didn't work out. I was in a ballet company, and then him and my stepmother kicked me out, so I lived in my Volkswagen Super Beetle for a few months.
In Erie.
And Rose Madrioni at the Colonial Kitchen said, "You going to sleep in that car all winter? It's a lawnmower. Let me teach you how to bartend."
And where was that at?
Colonial Kitchen.
The Colonial Kitchen.
It's where Chiconia Signs was for a while. It became the Golden Nugget.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I worked for all those guys back then.
Gotcha. Okay.
They were good to me, but I didn't know what they were really doing.
So over the years, like, first of all, you came recommended by Antoine Jack, Bob Tome, other people. You know a lot of musicians, and that's why I wanted to have you on here. You worked at The Alternative. You worked at Sherlocks, the PI, Vermont Tavern, Scotty's, and now Philly on the Rocks.
Hire me, I'll put your bar out of business.
All right.
Not true.
They just don't last. All the good ones don't last.
So we're going to chat about some of those things.
Okay.
So 70, what did you say, 78 you
78,
came? Right?
yeah.
Music-wise, were you hiring anybody? Were you working at any bars?
No, it was different. The scene was so different back then.
How
like,
so?
The band managers like Harpo and Love Affair, they would have their people call the bar owners, they book
that's
them.
how they did it.
Yeah, and it was a different world. We're lucky. We get to see all the good bands. We're old. We get to see all the good bands.
Now, those bands I know from Sherlock's days. I mean, when did
they were alternative? Yeah,
alternative too.
Yeah.
Right.
The other half, I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Sure.
Okay, so I dated a guitar player for a while, of course.
Of course you did.
And but the first time they played at the Alternative, I was so excited because they were supposed to open up for Patti Smith, and I was like, "I'll be here to greet the band. I'll do all that." And they pulled up, Patti Smith band, and she fell out of the van, and she was wasted, and she smelled bad, and then she ended up blacking out, and I got to help her into an ambulance. And then the other half became our house band.
So Patti Smith did not play that night.
No.
I got it. Okay. So that's at the Alternative. A lot of folks don't remember that was now where the Bayfront Highway is.
It was great.
Is.
Yeah,
It's
it was
where
huge.
McClellan, great rock
There's
band.
McClellan. Yeah, it was an old warehouse. It was great.
Who were some of your favorite local bands that you saw there? I know you were there the night.
Easy was a regular band. I listen to anything except prog rock. And
you were there the night of Maggie's birthday for Chaser.
Oh,
right?
my God, yeah.
What do you remember about any of that?
I don't know what
Maggie
keys
Flanagan.
she was hitting or notes she was hitting, but yeah, that was really fun. Well, I worked at the Artists and Entertainers Club, too.
The Artists and Entertainers Club.
Yeah,
so
they just tore that down. It was the Lions on 11th Street.
Okay, right.
And that's Dickie Torelli and Steve, another guy, they owned it, and it was just, after hours clubs were big then,
Right.
They didn't make you leave at 3.
And were you hiring bands or just involved?
Yeah, just recommending.
Just fan?
They should hire.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What about these guys?
Who were some of your favorites back then?
They were all like my favorites, but also being a bartender and a bar manager and stuff, you wanted the bands that were going to bring people in. And so,
Sure.
We had all the MJ's bands, like the X-Whites and the crazy punk bands.
The punk bands.
But that's where I would go when I wasn't working.
Beat?
I was the Beat, yeah.
Generic
Rick
Beat.
DeBello lived with me for 5 years, and he was in the Beat for a while. They were great. Danny Smith is such a great front guy.
Pistol Whip? The
DeBello.
second Pistol Whip.
Yeah, the first one in the Girl Scouts, and what else did he have? Cattle Cruisers. So why am I talking?
Well, those were.
They were.
Rick's one of those guys that was in the scene, and
he
has been
was.
part of the
Yeah,
scene
he was
for many
right,
years. He's
right.
going to be on the
Clowns,
podcast.
right?
I just gave him a bunch of
Famous
his old
Clowns.
T-shirts and stuff,
Sure.
coats and stuff back because they were in Chicago a lot, and
Right.
Willie Cotter was
Right.
Jimmy DeMonte. It was a great time.
Yeah, whenever I go on to the past musicians in Erie page, you're commenting as much as the musicians are. I mean,
I know. I'm like, yeah.
You know,
and I
those
remember
folks.
a lot. It's weird. I can't remember what I ate today, but I know what I wore to a concert in 1970.
Yeah. So the alternative, describe the alternative for people who don't.
It was
remember.
it was an old warehouse, and they tried to make it a discotheque, so it had a ginormous dance floor that was lit from underneath.
Oh, okay.
And the stage had to be 25 feet long. It was huge. And then there was one bar on the one side, the snake. It was just huge.
Was it bigger than Sherlocks?
Oh, huge. Yeah, it was a huge open room, and I think their capacity was 350.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then, we had no security. The LEF guys were like, it's like having the Hellz Angels running your...
Sure, right.
And, it was a good time.
Memorable bands that
The
played
first night I worked
alternative.
was Black Oak, Arkansas, Jim Dandy.
Right. Because a lot of national acts did come through and play there.
They played...
Yeah.
That you could make a living and pay your rent being in a band back then.
Yeah.
And every band had a roadies, sound guy, light guy,
Right.
a truck.
Right. They
Didn't lift a finger, but
Right.
yeah, it's just a different world. People went out every night.
Yeah.
Even at Sherlocks, I worked Tuesday was blues night, Thursday metal night, Friday, Saturday, every night, and they'd stay out till 2.
Yeah.
Like now, everybody wants to be up at 10 o'clock. It's making me insane.
And there was music almost every night,
Right,
too.
right.
You know,
and we
that's
would go
what-
to Oliver's and Norb's and MJ's because I liked the original stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The cover bands that played the alternative, they were great, but
Yeah, it seems like you gravitate towards the more original bands.
Yeah.
You've already mentioned a whole bunch of those
I don't
seminal
need to
bands.
listen to the radio.
I mean, you talk about the Frenchmen, you talk about Pistol Whip, you talk about
The Frenchman. The Pulse,
the Pulse, right?
yeah.
Generic Beat.
And my friends worked at Molly B's.
Right.
So, and I was still the alternative, and we would, we were all underage and let us in, a courtesy thing, but it was fun.
Sure.
God, it was fun.
So, some of the bands from back then, who did you go see when you weren't working?
Pretty much, I would go to certain bars because they had original music. I didn't really care who it was. They'd have bands from out of town. They would have new local bands just because it was original. That's
what it appealed to you? Yeah.
So it's like I'm not being stuck on just going to see, although, in dating musicians, I'm like, I can't go see your band every night.
Sure. Right.
Don't expect me to be there every night.
Any favorites?
I don't know. The Generic Beat was good. I still listen to the Dogs.
I was going to say, we haven't mentioned the Dogs
The
yet.
Dogs. Reptile is a great song. I just listened to it the other day. And I look back at those videos, and we were so not cool because there wasn't any hot topic. There were no cool. Everybody just had weird, normal clothes on.
Right.
But I got accepted to the Fashion Institute Technology. I ended up not going. It was expensive, but I still refashion clothes. I call them Frankensteining clothes together. I made a lot of money making punk rock clothes.
Oh, really?
Getting old golf pants.
For
and
some of the local
plaid
guys?
pants and making them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
For me and then for other people.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
still does it.
You still do it?
Yeah, I still do it.
All right.
Yeah. I'm like, it's already half made. Let me put that with something else.
All right. Sherlocks, you were there for
14 years.
14 years.
And I was there. There were people that were there for 27 years.
Really? Wow.
We were making bank then, and we were Erie's Home of Rock and Roll. I still have every schedule because I'm like that. I have monthly schedules.
Oh.
We had some great stuff going on there.
Did Bev hire all the bands?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she went through promoters or managers or whatever, but and we went through that terrible phase of the tribute bands.
The trippy bands?
The tribute bands like Guns N' Roses, and there was a million tribute bands for a while.
Oh,
It was too
tribute.
much.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
But
Right.
we
I
had
hate tribute
we had a
bands.
lot of up and coming bands like
Ken sits here
Seether
in an
played there,
AC/DC
Cannibal
tribute band.
Corpse, Typo Negative, and then we would have The Warrant and the Quiet Riot, the Way Down bands.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the 80s, you had some of those bands.
Yeah,
that
they were, and they would get really. I'm like, listen, you guys are not playing at the Civic Center. You're now at Sherlocks. So
Right.
if you want me to drive you around, you're going to have to ride my car. I don't have a limo. But then we'd have the up and coming bands, and those guys were always great because they were so appreciative of having a place to stay.
Yeah.
We'd feed them, treated them well. We would get a lot of those bands during the week because they were passing through.
Yeah.
And that's. I just signed a contract with a record company in Boston to do that. To get, it's called Red on Red Records. They're distributed by Gem, which is a huge indie dealer.
Sure.
But I'm like, listen, I can't give them a guarantee, but I'll house them, I'll feed them, they can make some gas money, make some new friends.
And you're talking about Philly on the Rocks
yeah,
now.
Yeah. We start the 26th. We were having a meet and greet with the record company guy and Kip Album.
Yep. Right.
I work with him a lot.
So I was going to say, tell people about Kip because he's been part of the scene for so long, and that name.
He's an asshole.
aside from that.
Hope you're not listening, Kip.
Oh, he knows. No, I love him to death. He just, he was promoting a lot, but there's no money in that anymore.
Right.
So,
but back in the day, there was.
Oh yeah. He left town, went back to New York, and his dad, Don Albaum, was the biggest boxing promoter in the country.
Right.
So, and he's just moved back to Erie. But Kip, he's still in New York City.
Did he promote a lot of bands back in?
Yeah, and then everything kind of bottomed out. So now he bought a couple of sound systems and a truck, and he's running sound. And but he's still doing, some of the stuff. Like he's working with Dan from Red on Red Records, and he's my liaison.
So 14 years at Sherlocks or whatever.
I wouldn't do anything I like for 14 years.
I mean, there had to have been some interesting, I'll say crazy.
It'll be in my book.
I was going to say nights as far as with the local bands. Kent's sitting here shaking his head up and down. Anybody who went to Sherlock's probably went to something there that they were like,
and the thing is, it was everything. We would have a Dave Matthews tribute band, and then we'd have Derek Trucks play there when he was 13.
Really?
Yeah, he was this little kid with big sneakers on, and he's very introverted, and his mother's like, fucking nightmare. Everybody keeps trying to buy him shots.
Really?
Yeah. He was a little kid. He was such a kind of savant,
How about Pat Monahan? You remember?
I do remember Pat.
Playing with Rogues Gallery back then.
Yeah, Rogues Gallery.
Cover band, so not your favorite.
He was just not. After he, I don't want to.
I just didn't know if it was one of those situations where you thought, oh shit, this guy has something.
Well,
people recognized it then.
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah, right.
And
who was your cup of tea that you were like, this band should be big? Why are they playing here?
God.
And I'm talking local bands.
Because they went through the metal phase, and then the tradesmen, the Celtic, the Flogging Molly type things, and Frank Furco's band when he had that, they're all in their own right. It's different styles. I can't say people go, I just listen to metal. No, you don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk to me about metal bands because
Sherlock's
had
Thursday
a lot
was my
of metal
night. Thursday was my metal night. I worked alone with the bar back. I made bank, and I could pump out drinks. It was Jack and Cokes and shots. It wasn't hard.
Yeah.
But the metal scene was very thriving. Then.
Yeah.
They support each other, and they would all come out now.
So it was a one night. It was like a special.
Thursday was kind of like the metal night. Tuesday was blues night. We'd have Rick and the Roadhouse Rockers or Jake or what's his name, the drummer.
The blues drummer?
From Jake's Blues. I forgot his name. He's a minister now.
But you also had Modern Music Mondays, right?
That was before I started working there.
Oh, it was?
But I was there.
Okay, all right.
I was there.
You were there.
Selling my clothes.
Right. And describe that, because a lot of people have talked about Modern Music Mondays.
Modern Music Monday, yeah. It was, now I'm trying to get somebody out on a Monday.
Yeah, right.
Right. Even if we get things done by 10, I'm like, hey,
and it was early 80s, and the bands didn't come on till 10, right?
Right. They played till 2, but every night there was music. Yeah. Our night off from the alternative was Sunday. We would drive to Buffalo and go see Talus and all these bands in Buffalo. Well, their bars open before, but we would drive out there, drink, and I'd have to be at my day job. It was crazy. But, I always pay attention to the opening bands. U2 was an opener. We got extremely drunk doing shots with them.
Where? Up in
Buffalo. At Stage 1 they opened up for Talus.
Did you see Talus when they were at the A&E Club?
Yeah.
When they played there?
Yeah, hung out with them for a little bit.
Okay. So, that was one of those situations where you had to have been like, oh, this Billy Sheehan guy, he's a little step above. And I can see by the look on your face, yeah. But musician-wise, you had to have recognized this guy is an alien.
He was like, it's like when Van Halen opened up for Black Sabbath. I was working at the Ramada Inn, covering for a girl using her time card because I owed her a favor. And I was trying to find a place to smoke a joint. And I go in the leather room, and this guy's there, he's like putting stuff in this leather. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, smoke that. And then I said, oh, are you playing at the field house? It was right over there. And he goes, yeah, they were the opener. Nobody knew who they were. And he gave me his old TWA bag.
Who was it?
Eddie Van Halen.
It was Eddie. Okay.
And then he goes, so you come to the show? I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm making any money at this banquet I'm working at. And I had to alter my monkey suit uniform into an outfit.
Right.
Gave me a T-shirt and made a skirt out of it, and boom.
And you were there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was exhausted by the time they were done.
Sure, Van Halen opens for Black
Sabbath. Who knew?
One of the most infamous shows. Right.
They just even though songs are coming out, I'm like, everybody remember so many times I feel like I was getting jammed up against the front of the stage. I'll get my arms down, I'm like,
Well, you worked at the place, the Ramada Inn, where they all stayed.
I didn't work there. I was covering for a girl.
Oh, you just
and I used her time card because I owed her a favor.
Okay, I was going to say you must
So I
have saw
punched
a
in
lot.
and her time card. Her name was Kelly, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of here. This banquet, whatever.
By the way, she still has the bag Eddie gave her with.
I don't have it anymore. No, I don't have
All
it.
right.
It was a plastic crappy bag. And then he goes, "You want this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll use it for a makeup bag." I was in a dance company. I'm like, whatever. And nobody knew who they were.
Right.
You know, he's this guy and we smoked joint. And he goes, "I'll put you on a roll call. I think I'm allowed to have a guest."
You've had numerous interactions with famous musicians, I imagine, over the years. You've met Popcorn, Earth, Wind, and Fire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know him. And how does that even start?
His cousin Roger Wyatt is I helped with his art shows, and I would promote his art shows. We did stuff for Children's Miracle Network, all this crazy stuff.
Where at? Are you talking?
We did that one at the Children's Museum.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then he goes, his cousin Popcorn is the road manager.
Right.
Dude, you don't think about it. I'm thinking, Earth, Wind, and Fire. You just don't think how many freaking songs they have.
Yeah.
And I thought they're going to come out with, afros and jumpsuits. They were amazing.
Yeah.
They had 3 percussion sections. They had dreadlocks, and they were amazing. I mean, I was just like...
Well, how did you meet him, the road manager, Popcorn?
It's my friend Roger that I work for his production company doing art shows. It was his cousin.
Okay. It was his cousin,
Yeah.
okay. And so he's like, hey, do you want to come to a show? You got to go backstage.
He goes,
and
we're
hang
going.
out.
I'm like, yeah, I'm going. I got a picture of me and Bourdin.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's like, yeah.
How about your favorite encounter?
It was probably with Rush, me and prog rock, but I was with...
do you like prog rock or not?
I hate it.
Okay, that's what I thought. And Rush really is not prog
Well,
rock, just so
I
we're
kinda
clear.
But they were
yes
playing
is
with
prog
Van
rock.
Halen. There was nobody.
Pink
I was
Floyd,
with the bass player from Buffalo. We go because he knows him, and I'm like, I felt bad. Like I'd really like to go down to that Van Halen dressing room and see what's going on with all the slut whores. But we're their guests, and they're like, hey, there's a girl here. There's a girl here. And I'm like, yeah, girl in your dressing room. I'm like,
Rush.
Yeah.
That's who you're talking about?
They were like,
this is at the Field House?
no, it was in Buffalo.
Oh, in Buffalo?
Yeah, I was with
70s.
this bass player that I know from Buffalo, but I felt like they were so nice, but they're so
Remember,
there was nobody in their dressing room. Like, there's a girl in the dressing room. Everybody.
You can say fuck on this podcast. You can say who you were with, the bass player.
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right. So I got you. Kent's doing a really good impression of somebody. So
yeah.
So you are not a musician in any way?
No, I played cello for a bit when I was in school because I wanted to play the biggest thing they had. Dragging that thing home, my mother's like. And then we moved. My mother's married several times. I had a brother that passed away and stuff. But and I started on piano. My grandmother taught, but nobody wants to move a piano.
Never followed up with it. Yeah, right.
And I honestly I have such a short attention span.
I hadn't noticed.
I tried to learn to crochet. I made a scarf that was like that long.
So one of the places did you work at the Peninsula Inn?
Oh yeah.
What was that like? I mean, that was the height of the 80s.
It was before the Sherlocks people owned it. It was
before Bevan
a doctor
Tippy
from
owned it.
Cleveland owned it, and the manager's name, he was Irene, his name was Fahad, we called him Fred. And then every time, we had show bands, 5 one-hour sets a night. Can you imagine?
5 1-hour sets.
Yeah, they started at 8 o'clock. But they would always send the Flock of Seagulls song, Iran, out to him, and he's like, I hate this song. I'm like, it's because you're Iranian.
So, any memories of great bands that you liked at the PI back then?
It was a lot of show type bands.
Yeah, right.
Cleveland.
They were real. No, it was not when I worked there.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a lot of bands that did a lot of Motown and R&B and stuff.
Yeah,
they were all really, really good, but they were show bands, and I'm sure they got paid crazy money.
Yeah, Wave played
I mean,
there.
yeah. Wave. Wave. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, they were a popular band back then.
Yeah. 5 lead singers and a band.
Right. Yeah.
I think Bob Tom was in that band for a while.
I think a lot of people were in that band for a little while. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Alternative Sherlocks, PI. In the 2000s, you go to the Vermont Tavern. Is Bob Nelson?
Well, it was Nelson's first.
It was Nelson's first.
And that was mismanaged. And then I left. And then when they became the Vermont, they asked me to come back. And there was just a lot of the investors that end up owning it didn't know anything about the business. And you just can't.
What did you do there? Did you hire the band?
I was a bar manager and did all, but it was just, they didn't know what they were doing. They were they're country club guys. They're trying to make it like White Linen. It's not going to work here.
Who were some of the bands that played back then?
Well, my friends Terrence Simeon, the Zydeco Orchestra.
Okay.
You know, Zydeco's Crazy Thing.
How about local guys?
We had everybody. Duke Sherman, like Roger, Jake. It wasn't a lot of harder rock stuff.
Yeah.
It was more
blues,
the blues.
Zydeco.
Blues. Remember, blues had that big thing for a while.
Yeah.
In Erie, it was like the blues scene was huge and it was oversaturated. It was kind of that. And then I had hired Terrence Simeon, and they're like, "That's not going to work here." I'm like, "No, just please." And it was amazing. They won a Grammy.
They're from New Orleans?
Yeah, they won a Grammy.
Yeah.
They've won 2 now. I'm like, but Zydeco is a whole different, New Orleans is a whole different world.
Genre,
like, people don't even get it, you know, but it was really fun.
And did you ever hire or have Zipper City when Roger was in it back in the day?
No, but I was working at Sherlocks, so it was great because that's when you wanted to have other bars near you.
Yeah.
So you could,
So they
the
were
traffic,
playing
the
at
foot traffic.
Docksider.
People used to bar hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would go down. Docksider was our thing. I'm like, we're happy hour Friday because I want to go down and see Queen Bee or,
Sure.
you know, oh my God, it was great bands.
Yeah, those are great.
Terrence Simeon had, I'm not saying that word, but a little guy playing keyboards. He'd stand on a box and they would pass him over the crowd. I'm like,
at the Docksider. Yeah. Yeah, it was a totally different scene at Docksider as compared to, like
when
you said,
Docksider caught on
one
fire,
block
when
up.
it burned down, I was working at Sherlock's and this kid at the doors, he's in college, he's doing his homework. I'm like, what's going on down there? He goes, oh, Docksider's on fire. I'm like, what? Roger was playing.
I didn't know.
He ran in and grabbed, it was electrical fire. They were closed for 9 months. It was great. We got them all. But Roger's running in trying to grab his guitars, and they're like, grab a bottle of vodka here. And Bob Nelson owned it. I think he's owned Oliver's, too.
Bob's going to be on the podcast here in a few weeks, so he can give me the download on
I got
some
some
of
Bob
that.
stories. No, but Docksider, like, that was, me and Jen Richardson, God rest her soul, like, that was we're going down there. It was fun. I did make them put an Ass Man sticker on the cooler there. The hippies were like...
I was going to say, the Ass Men are another one, yeah, and that cooler was infamous. I mean,
oh
it
my
had
God.
so many
Well,
stickers
and then
on
they
it.
moved it to... I managed the one that was, uppers when they moved.
Yeah.
That was a great block. And it has the spindle inside, and...
Got it.
The people, the Lebanese guys that bought it, they were like going to throw it out. I'm like,
yeah, that was a piece
people
of music
wanted it.
history.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
bet.
God, it was amazing.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Kent, did you ever go to any of those?
Oh yeah,
Pull that over. Yeah, that's all right. I'm sorry. I was just gonna. I should have told you.
I guess I've been doing music for like 35 years, so I was either at a show or playing at a show. I played at the PI.
He had the giant hair. That's why he became a hairdresser.
I've seen the hair, but did you play for her at some places?
At Sherlock's. I did play at the PI.
And then when I was with Scott Moffat, we have a child together.
I played with Scott and Night Witch,
right?
And Sergeant Rock.
Oh yeah, right.
But also, like my first band, Chill Factor, played at the PI several times, including the last day of the PI. And boy, I get some stories there.
You played the last day of the PI, so Donnie Iris so Chill Factor played earlier in the day.
It
was just constant.
We played the night before on the beach facing the water. It was like we were the only band that night. And then we were like the third band on.
Let me tell you what, working there,
Yeah.
we were allowed to we had to wear beach bar. Like there were 7 bars there.
Sure, I was there.
It was me. I have to wear a bathing suit to work in. It's never attractive when you've been over a bathing suit. But they're like, we actually took drinks out to boats, which is illegal.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm like, I was making so much money. I would work, bank money, and then go on tour with bands.
Did you work the final night at the PI?
I did not work there when they had it. I was doing something else. I don't know.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was going to say, were you there?
I was there for.
Yeah, I was there.
I don't know what happened.
So Chill Factor,
Chill Factor was Michael Chin, Bob Gunther,
Bob.
Bill Spinks, Gina Samino on keyboards, and me on drums. There was a few versions. That was I think they had a drummer before.
They all the same hair.
Work, I think. And then there was maybe after me, but that was that version. And great fun band. We did a lot of great music.
I knew when my night was going to go good. When my hair would touch the roof of my Mustang, I'm like,
you'd have to duck down the drive to the bar.
It's going to be a good night.
I've seen those pictures of you. You have some big hair back then.
I do have just a couple things that.
Tell me a story about Oliver's, last night at Oliver's.
I'll get to
Okay, last night of. Hold on. Let's stay with the PI for a second. Yeah, because I love hearing stories of the last day of the PI.
The Tippy Bar, thought the condos were, if they would have just put a hotel on top of that, pay the parking lot, that was the thing.
Sure.
You don't put condos there, they could auction those off. Like, that was people come up from Pittsburgh and sleep in the sand.
Sure.
Right. It's hard to find pictures of video from the last day. It's like forbidden fruit.
Well, because nobody really carry a giant video camera around. Like
it really was like Sodom and Gomorrah. When I say that, I mean it was just like
it was a free for all.
Anything goes. Two highlights. My lead singer in Chill Factor. If you're out there listening, Bob, I love you. But I remember he was not getting along with his girlfriend, and he ended up in a tree. Out in the middle of the crowd, and they had to get the security to get him out of the tree. Okay. I also remember another thing. Friction was one of the bands playing inside that night after the outdoor stuff, and they did 3 sets, and then Bev offered them like $500 to play in their underwear. And they did. They sure did.
Right.
Not all the bands. There was a few little rooms in the PI.
Well, they were like they would look like mobile home old bedrooms, like real tiny.
Sure, yeah. Right.
So a few bands, our band. I don't know why we were one of the bands to get those. And
there were only 7 of them. Right?
All I'm going to say is I put my clothes in there to change and stuff. And every time I went back to the room, I ended up turning around and shutting the door because there was other things going on in the room.
Some people were in there.
Not even my band.
Yeah, right.
It was just random people. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So those are a few highlights I remember from back that crazy day. Unforgettable.
See, back in the alternative days, Sunday I would put our bands from alternative at Trader Jack's in Lakewood, Jamestown.
Oh, okay.
Trader Jack's in Lakewood. So they would Santer's a band from Toronto, friends with ours. So. They're here, I'll get you guys in here and then drive back from New York State.
Yeah, and I just want a couple more things. After my band, it was great bands like Rhythm Method, The Other Half, Donnie Iris. It was just a tremendous day, and we were all hanging out and partying together. Yeah. I mean, it was really cool. Steve McConnell, Keith Pacheco.
Can you imagine it was now and somebody recorded all that?
All that? I wish there was a documentation of everything because it would just be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, cars were parked all the way up to 8th.
It was all legendary.
The way up. Yeah. They were always on good nights.
Legendary.
Up the street, the parking lot sucked. They could have just.
It was almost like a Woodstock-ish feeling.
It was.
It really was. Right. I mean, I actually got overheated. I had heat stroke after I played. And they actually carried me down to the lake and threw me in the water to cool me down. And
that is
so that's how I finished my day there. I was really sunburnt, dehydrated, but I didn't care. It was a great day.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. So those are my PI stories. But yeah, I've known Marlene. She probably served me my first beer in Erie.
Yeah.
Because I haven't always lived here. I moved here probably 40 years ago. And and then a lot of my bands like French Maid, Night Witch, Nasty Habits, all these bands played at Sherlocks and different places. So, yeah.
Switch to Oliver's.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
So tell folks, so Oliver's was in 2 places, right? Wasn't it? Or was it always just on French?
It was on French.
It was on French. I'm going to come
owned by Donnie Detzel.
All right.
I was gonna keep names anonymous, but it's out there.
That's all right. Yeah.
Donnie remembers if he's listening. He remembers. I'm sure.
We're doing a show with him this summer, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a story that I've been telling people for years. Now this is when I was in Nasty Habits. That was me on drums. Bob Burns on keyboards from the Ray Guns and a few other bands.
The owner of the Cab.
The owner of the Cab, more importantly.
Great place.
And his wife, Natalie.
Yep.
Jason Wilbur on bass. He was only 17 years old when he was playing with us.
And now the bass player.
He's traveled all over the world and, currently in Smilo and the Ghosts. Great. All these people great. Jack Campbell.
Last night they're open.
It was the last night the original Oliver's was ever open. Me, Jack Campbell, Jason Wilbur, Bob Burns, and Mary Gaudreau was our singer from Jamestown.
Okay.
But she played a lot here, and we played a lot there, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we get this call from, I played at Oliver's in Chill Factor and other bands, and then Nasty Habits gets this call, hey, do you guys want to open up for Molly Hatchet? And of course, they were one of my, I idolized them, you know what I mean? So we're all just immediately yes! Okay? So... Anyway, Donnie Detzel's the only problem is they want us to supply the production and blah, blah, blah. And
meaning the back line or the
everything.
Not the back line, just the sound, monitors, mics, and the lights.
They just want to walk in and play.
Right.
Yeah.
So Donnie asked. So Donnie asked us if we had any suggestions for that. So I'm trying to think of all my friends. So I'm like, you know what, guys? Frank Bellamini, good friend of mine.
He was our sound man at Sherlocks.
And he was the sound guy at Sherlocks. Right. Frank, if you're listening, I love you. I wish you were here.
Back in the day.
So Frank had just bought a brand new system, sound, lights, everything, and he couldn't wait to try it out. This was going to be the inaugural run of his new equipment.
Perfect.
Okay?
Right.
So he comes. They tell us to get there at noon, and we get there, and Frank's already got his stuff set up. We have all of our stuff by the stage in cases. And Donnie Detzel's real nervous. He's pacing back and forth, and we're like, what's going on? When do we set up? He's like, well, we got a problem. Molly Hatchett's manager called, and they're stuck at the border in Canada. They're being strip searched.
Because they just got out of prison.
Well, I think that was Danny Joe Brown. Yeah, he had been in prison shortly before that. Don't sue me if I'm wrong on any of these things. These are just,
Don't mess with Southern rockers.
And Marlene, were you working there then?
No.
Oh,
she wasn't.
I didn't work there.
Okay.
I wish she was.
Yeah.
I wish there was video. There's not. I've checked. So anywho, he's like, Donnie's doing, let's just say he's doing a few more shots and stuff because he's really nervous.
Sure.
The doors open
and they're
at 7.
putting more and more demands on the show.
Yes.
We're going to add this, right? We're going to add this and that. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So
who do you guys think you are, Warrant?
Yeah. So he's like, you know what? You guys, I told you to be here, and now I don't know how long it's going to be. The doors open at 7. So here, drinks are on me, and I'm going to get you some food. And, back then and still now, most of the time, there were no actual dressing rooms. It was a kitchen, a bathroom, or a basement.
Sure.
So they set us up in the kitchen, and we were like, cool. So we had overclothes hanging over knobs and handles in the oven. And we're like, we're playing for Molly Hatchet. And they bring in this big meat, cheese, and veggie platter and a case of Budweiser.
Wow. All right.
And we're like, man, we're living the dream.
Absolutely.
So we're feeling like rock stars. Molly Hatchet. So after a long time, Donnie's like, you know what? Just put your stuff up on the stage. At this point, it's like 6 p.m. Doors open at 7. No Molly Hatchet yet.
Oh.
They're still in contact with them, saying they're still
at the border. They were at the border.
Still in transit.
Right.
So he's like, I don't care. Somebody's playing tonight.
Yeah, right.
You guys get your stuff up there, and we'll get you checked. Yeah. So Nasty Habits, we get our equipment up there. Frank gives us a beautiful sound check. Everything's great. We get done. We go back to our dressing room in the kitchen and start eating our veggie platter.
That's right.
So finally, the doors open. People were coming in. Molly Hatchet still isn't there. Our stuff's like, my drums are kind of off to the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It just looks really empty and weird.
And the tour bus pulls.
And then the show was supposed to start at 9. Molly Hatchet gets there at, I think, 8 or 8:30 to set up. Okay?
Okay.
So this big bus pulls up, and we're in the kitchen, and I'll just make my quick bus sound. We hear like a brrrr, air brakes.
Yeah.
Right outside the kitchen door. Kitchen door flies open. We're all sitting there, all happy. Their road manager comes in, classic road manager. He's got like a perm, mirrored sunglasses, a leather jacket, duster. He comes in, he looks around the kitchen, looks at us, goes, "What's up?" We're like, "How you doing?" He grabs our veggie platter and case of beer, puts it under his arm, goes back out the door and onto the tour bus.
He totally kiped their stuff.
And we're all just standing there with their mouths open going, there goes our he took our veggie platter and our beer. That was like our...
And that was it?
That was it. So that was it. And
Did they play?
Molly Hatchet goes on the bus to the... What was it at the time? Was it the Avalon? The Hilton.
Yeah. Oh, the Hilton?
So they leave their roadies there to set up in like a half hour. These poor guys were sweating, swearing. They were under so much pressure.
Sure,
right.
right.
Get fired then or quit?
It's coming. So they finally get their stuff set up, and it gets checked as good as something can get checked. Frank does a great job again. So anyway, I think we end up going on a little late, like at 9:30, and we get asked to do 2 sets instead of 1 because everything's just thrown off at this point.
Right.
So we do our 2 sets. We do really well. Everybody really gets into it. The sound's great, and then all of a sudden, I think Molly Hatchet finally showed up at, let's see, we played 9:30 to 10:30. They show up at midnight.
Okay.
Okay. Bus comes back, Bus is there. Danny Joe Brown, I didn't know, but found out later he was a really bad diabetic, shouldn't even be drinking or doing any drugs of any sort.
Okay.
Not my business. I'm just saying
Sure, right.
kind of ties into this. The guitar players and everybody else in the band seemed to be fine. They were totally coherent. Danny Joe Brown, big guy, tattoos, been in prison a couple times. You could tell he had a few fifths of Jack Daniels before he even left the hotel.
Sure.
And
right.
brought one with him open and was still drinking it. So let's just say between his health problems and the other stuff, he was in really, really bad shape. Okay?
This is before they start.
This is even before they start.
Okay.
It's like midnight. So they start at like 12:30 by the time they get their act together. They come out. Okay, everybody's ready to go. The crowd's there. There's chairs and, we can't wait. And they brought their own sound guy, and he goes back to Frank's brand new board and starts changing everything, of course. And Frank's just standing there watching all this happen, going, "What are you doing?" And so anyway, they come out and they start. I'm just going to say they open with "Flirt with Disaster."
But they had a rider about the microphones.
We found out later. This all comes into play.
Yeah.
So they start with, I'm just going to say "Flirt with Disaster,"
sure.
but it wasn't that, but it was a famous song.
Yeah, yeah.
And Danny Joe Brown basically got, guitar players come out and they're doing their thing, their choreography together with their guitars. And they, you can tell it's Molly Hatchet. Everybody's cheering. Time for Danny to sing. He sings like the first 3 or 4 words. He's like, "I'm traveling." And then all of a sudden he goes, "Fuck this." And he takes one of Frank's brand new microphones and throws it into the ceiling, and then it comes down and smashes into pieces on the stage. They give him another microphone. He says a couple more words and does the same thing. He ends up breaking 3 or 4 microphones. Frank runs up to the stage to confront Danny Joe Brown.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because Frank, he just bought this. He doesn't care.
He's literally, you don't mess with
He's like, and the manager or whoever's holding Frank back saying, "What are you going to do, beat up Molly Hatchet?"
It's in the contract that they can break as many microphones as they want.
We eventually found out that they can basically do whatever they want, break whatever they want, and they're not responsible. But it gets even worse. So, there's that confrontation. Donnie, at this point, is just losing his mind. He's totally on our side. He goes up to Danny Joe Brown.
Are they finishing these songs that he's throwing the microphones into
no,
the ceiling?
they end up doing.
He'd sing a few words and then he'd smash.
Yeah,
a mic
and then they took like a quick break and settled the scuttle.
2 hours later, I need a break.
They came back and did, I'm going to say, maybe 4 or 5 songs. And they were just, he was just kind of mouthing through the words. It was terrible, really a letdown. The guitar players, I got to give them credit, and the bass player and the drummer. They played their parts great and pretended like nothing was happening. They were awesome. But so after they're done, Donnie has had a few drinks and stuff. He goes up to him and he's not, I don't know how tall Donnie is, but he's not even close. Not big guy. He's not even, and that's no problem. But anybody compared to Danny Joe Brown, who looks like he's 6'5" and been lifting weights since he was 3,
right.
with tattoos and.
Yeah.
He goes up to him and points him in the chest. He's like, "You guys ruined my whole blah, blah, blah." And Danny Joe Brown basically just looks at him and punches him one time and knocks him down on the ground. Just boom, lays him out. So now the bar, yes.
Are there patrons still in the bar?
Yeah, there's people watching the whole thing. My band's all there. We're like, what is going on?
There were cell phones back then, right?
There were no cell phones.
Yeah.
So now the police have been called. Okay, so now Molly Hatchet is smart enough to gather up, get on their bus, and get the hell out of there.
Absolutely.
So they get out of there. So Donnie's kind of out of it. I don't know if he was.
Guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Before they were done, Danny Joe Brown fired their own sound guy from the stage and told them to find his own ride home. And I think they lived in like Jacksonville or Florida or somewhere in Florida. So. There was that too. He got fired because he said we sounded better than they did, and we did, but that wasn't our fault or the sound guys. So anywho, back to it's all done. Donnie's trying to get up. The police show up, and this is so bad. I feel terrible. I literally watched Oliver's close this night because the police get there and start asking. Molly Hatchet's gone, so the police don't know It's he said.
Yeah, like this band didn't even hear this.
So Donnie's like, and he's kind of incoherent. And the police are like, "Sir, we don't understand what you're saying. Please slow down." "Sir, we don't understand what you're saying. You guys are worthless." So he starts mouthing off to the police. They end up getting him into some type of like restraint hold, and they accidentally break his jaw.
Was he in jail for like 2 weeks too?
He was in a hospital bed. They had to wire his jaw shut, and he was handcuffed to the bed for 2 weeks.
That's rock and roll.
Oliver's closed. And right, that was boom right there. I think it eventually reopened as the Edge or something. But that was the last
night. He was out of it.
He was out of it. I mean, it was like a behind the music VH1.
We still want to do that show this summer.
You know, I've been wanting to tell this story or write a book about it.
That is crazy.
So I'm glad I got now. Like I said, all you guys, I'd love to have Frank come on sometime.
Oh, Frank's version of
he's got a whole nother version from his production.
From the sound,
of it.
yeah, right, yeah.
He remembers things because I guess there was a buffet set up also in the bar area for the bands, and they took that too.
Nice.
He's confiscated all the food.
So anyway, that was a crazy behind the music VH1 story that I've been trying to get out of my system for years.
I don't know how we're going to follow that up.
Yeah.
So let's just wrap it up
rock
with
and
this.
roll.
Marlene, today you're at Philly on the Rocks.
Yeah.
Tell people about Philly on the Rocks and what you're doing there. You created a stage. Tell us where it is.
Well, I didn't want to work there, and they're like, okay. I'm like, okay, fine. It's the neighborhood. It's always going to be a stigma.
Tell them where it
Chestnut,
is. 18th and Chestnut.
Old Captain Ron's, Little Italy.
Right.
We've had no incidents with, the neighborhood people or whatever, but it's just Erie's original music home. You know, nobody wants it. They want the cover bands that make all the money.
There's not a lot of places for original bands to play.
And they don't. These guys are not in these bands, these original bands, to pay their rent. They're lucky if they're walking out with $40. They just want to play.
And exposure. You oftentimes have.
And we get some amazing.
Bands,
we had this band
bands.
from Italy, this surf band that was so amazing.
There's been many national acts that come through the area.
I said I can't give you a guarantee, but you guys can stay at my house. And
Talk to me about some of the newer local bands. Because this is a local project.
Atrocity is the big attraction right now.
Atrocity?
They were lucid. They started in my basement because I was having house shows when I left Scotty's. My basement. I live in an old commercial building.
Yeah, we should mention you worked at Scotty's too, and they just tore that down last week. Yeah, right. And
that
had
they're the new thing. Ladders is doing really well. They're coming up this weekend. Maniacal Device and
Mala
Sangre always a standby. They're the best. Massive Denial. Yeah, they're they're plugging away in. They're all really good.
Some of these bands are heavy, but some of them are.
Some of them are thrash. Some of them are okay. Ralphie's Gone Blind is a new band that they remind me of the Romantics before they had those hits, like when they did Tomboy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, they have five singers. They have 5 singers, but yeah, it's everything.
You were making fun of Wave for having 5 singers a minute ago.
But they didn't play anything though.
All right,
but they, my thing is mixing up the genres. You can't just have if you have all metal bands, you're going to have one crowd of people.
Yeah.
If you mix them up a little, you get people crossing over and
checking
out
reggae.
Music. We have reggae,
rockabilly,
surf.
How often is music there?
Every Friday and Saturday. Now we're doing some Thursdays with the Red and Red Records. Chelsea Curve's coming up. We're doing that.
Is there a cover charge?
Yes. Okay. Because you know what?
Yeah.
That's how bands get paid. People get so indignant about. Give me $5.
Right.
Come on, dude. It's. We can't because people aren't drinking like they used to. We can't afford to pay them out of the door. We have tried to keep our doors open.
I had never been in Captain Ron's back in the day. Was there a stage? I've seen your stage.
No. So we just built. I had all that just put in. It's small. It's like Scotty's 75 capacity. But when I used to work in New York City and stuff, those are the best little bars.
Sure, right.
You could put these bands in a bigger place and it's going to look really empty. But in our place, it looks great.
Yeah.
And we painted. It looks good in pictures.
It looks great. It's got its own sound, lights.
We have my sound. I have a system, and then he's adding stuff to it. He's helping out, like people filling in, doing sound when he's busy. So it's good.
We do open mics every Sunday there from 6
right.
With we've got banjos, violins,
wide variety,
everything.
You never know what's going to show up there.
A lot of people that show up, like we had Tyler from Smilo.
We have a guy running for judge that's hosting open mic the 16th because he was like, sure,
it's actually really good.
We'll do it.
Well, my podcast is about the history of Erie and music and everything, but I wanted to
But it all goes...
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that because
it all stems from that.
You have started something in Erie that we haven't had in a while. Jack Stevenson will probably have you on his podcast about,
we love
which
Jack.
is the Two-Man Happy Hour. Listen to that one because he and Nat are doing a great job. They're on episode 5 now.
I book his son's band all the time.
Right.
It's just it all like I look back at the music scene, how much it's changed, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it just does. It can't be the same.
That's
Thank God. We'd be dead.
A strong comeback after
COVID. COVID kind of screwed us all up.
It was going to bounce back like it has. It really.
Well, now we have a little competition too. When we first started, we didn't have. Now other places are having music and open mics. But you know what? You can't be packed every single night.
Right. And you need those opportunities for people who are up and coming that have never played.
Right.
Those
I have some great optimistic
Apocalypse.
Mackenzie's fan. She's amazing.
Right.
She is.
Taylor.
Matt Texter.
Sure.
Yeah, we just all of them. We have Gwen is new. She's
So go out. I'll end this with go out. Philly on the Rocks. Check them out.
Tom Weber's band is playing Friday. His little duo.
Okay.
With Lisa Rhodes Friday.
Tom Weber's been on there.
And then we have a good show with Anna Tracy on Saturday and Massive Denial.
And then of course go see Hellz Bellz if you like AC/DC. And anyway, we've had Jeff Kroc on the podcast before. Yes. You guys are playing everywhere. You're doing a big show every single time, and that's fantastic.
It's a show. That's why it's a show.
It is. It's
not
show.
Just like you guys actually have a show.
Yeah, right.
We do. We put 100%. We bring the show and turn whatever we're playing into a concert.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we try.
All right, Marlene Flick, Kent Williams, thank you both for being on today.
Thank you, dear.
Come and see us.
Yes. Hey, thanks for listening to Season 6 of the Erie Music History Podcast. Just a reminder that I do host a music night on the first Tuesday of the month at the JPT Foundation's Events Center. It's on West 38th Street in the plaza that's next to Our Lady of Peace Church. Starts from 6 o'clock, goes till 9 o'clock, totally free, BYO everything. You can bring in alcohol, food. There's a great pizza shop next door. There's a Subway in the plaza. We, of course, have our house band, the Fabulous Leftovers. They play for an hour, and then usually we open it up to an open mic, or we have some other prearranged acts that follow the Leftovers from probably around 7:15, 7:20 till 9 o'clock. So check that out, first Tuesday of the month. Thank you to the JPT Foundation for continually supporting this podcast. I appreciate it. Also, thanks to my buddy Angelo Phillips, who also threw us a few bucks for helping support the podcast. I appreciate that. You can find all of the episodes right now on any of the platforms that you listen to podcasts on. I have not been updating the actual website, but you can also see the photos of the people that I interview for each episode on Facebook under Erie Music History Podcast. All right. Thanks a lot.